speaker, is Mildred Lombardi. Mildred has been a nurse for a few years. She was originally educated in the Philippines and got her advanced degrees at Michigan University. Millie is listed in the National State Board of Nursing in Who's Who in Nursing. She has devoted 41 years in the field. She is also listed in the National Distinguished Service Registry in Nursing. She served as an item writer for the National Nursing Council in 1979. In 2000, she became a fellow of the American College of International Physicians. Interestingly, she has hosted media events for Two Hearts Media, Pan Asia, Radio 10 episodes of Life is Sacred. Okay.
Hello everyone. I just want to thank Bess for inviting me to talk about GMO in the foods and its dangers. I told her before I can get you a better speaker, but she said no, we want a nurse. So in between my full-time job as a staff development director at Regency Healthcare and babysitting 5 grandchildren every so often and a sick daughter I have to visit at Collegeville frequently. So my husband said, well, we need to find time to clean the house. So I said, this is a pro-life issue and it's very, very important. This is a priority that I have to, respond to. So just a little commercial. During the break, I'll be giving you a handout on non-GMO guide for shopping. It's free for you. I will also be giving you the resources where you can find more information about GMO, and they're very, very good resources. Along with it, you will also get a handout on the Dirty Dozens, which are 10 lists of fruits and vegetables that are very, very high in pesticides, which we were able to get from Mr. Smith, who is an expert in GMO. Also, there will be a listing of websites where you can tap in your internet to get more information on this subject. Another commercial I would highly recommend for you. This will be a beautiful gift for Mother's Day or Easter from the International Clergy Retreat on the Family in Rome in 2002. William Engel, who is a scientist and researcher, spoke on principles of eugenics, food genocide, and population control. It costs $10. It's non-profit from the Two Hearts Media. Another one that I would also recommend is the Seeds of Deception. We have this available, half price at $10. They usually sell for $20. It's available for you at $10. This will be a beautiful gift for parents, mothers, Mother's Day, Father's Day. It contains a lot of information on GMO and what can be done, some studies that are in it. So this is available for you. Now I have 51 years in nursing. So my memory is not as good and I end up writing my paper, so I hope you'll be able to put up with it. What is GMO, or genetically modified organisms, which is now in our food? Sometimes it's also known as transgenic organism. Through genetic engineering, the organism contains a foreign DNA. And through genetic engineering, an organism is changed or genetic materials are manipulated in the laboratory with the use of following techniques: either isolation of genes, multiplication of genes, copying of genes, recombining of genes or DNA from various species, or transferring genes from one species to another. Genetic manipulation involves copying of genes or transfer of genes from one organism to another, and this is being done in our food. Genetic modification, in this particular technique, there is alteration in the genetic makeup of an organism, again, by copying them and using a gun, they call it gene gun, to inject it or blast it into our food. So it could be a gene of an insect and being put in our food, or a gene of a bacteria or viruses being injected into the gene of the food, of the plant. What are some of the genes being inserted in food crops? This resource is from William Engel. He has a book on the seeds of destruction, and it's very, very interesting, very enlightening, and it dates back to his research is extensive on the subject. So some of these are from him. Lectin, which is a natural insecticide, is being injected in our food crops. To prevent the aphid insects from infesting potato crops in 1995, there was a study done by Dr. Pastai. He has more than 35 years of experience in genetic engineering. He was Scottish, and this study was done for the Rowlett Institute to establish scientific testing methods on GMO crops. He is a leading gene scientist, and he revealed his result of his studies in a televised program with permission from the Rowlett Institute. But then his finding was not for GMO foods, and his finding was exactly the negative. He found that the effects of a diet of GM potatoes there was growth retardation, and there were some effects on the immune system. Actually, his studies were more extensive, but he did not reveal it to them because of hesitation that the public might panic. He found that the livers of the rats that were experimental weighed much less than the normal rats fed with regular potato. There were smaller liver, smaller heart, smaller brain, weaker immune system compared to the rats that were eating regular potatoes. Because of this, 2 days after, they fired him from the job because they did not want the people to know the dangers of GMO. And there were 30 scientists from all over the world who supported him. But in spite of that, he was out. Another is bacteria, registered in 1991 as a pesticide, the rDNA, the recombinant DNA for the GE sweet corn or BT corn. In the recombinant DNA, there are combined the genes from different organisms like the Bacillus thuringiensis. A soil bacterium gene is inserted into the genome of a corn. So the totality of the genes in the organism is being invaded by a foreign body to protect it from the corn borer pest. The adverse effects have been documented in scientific literature. Harm on the target organism, evolutions of resistance to insects and pests, cross-pollination with non-GMO plants, leak from the plant roots to soil and accumulation, the transfer of GM genes from GM pollen into microbes in the gut of the bee larva. The BT toxin genes was spread also by pollination and so forth. You wonder why the bees have disappeared. Some of them have been infected by this BT. In the recombinant DNA technology, they splice the gene to make a new combination of genes. And so they make a different organism after that. And combined with the natural organism, then they can pose a lot of danger. They also have what they call the Agrobacterium tumefaciens, which is the taxi or the gene canon, which was developed in 1987 by John Sanford at Cornell University. This bypass sexual reproduction and jump species barriers. So with this gene canon, they can go from one species to another. Like in, for example, a salmon, they want to put antifreeze, or in tomatoes, they might want to put a human gene in there. And by using this gun, they can do that. GMO of rice. Rice is a staple food of more than 2.4 billion people. 90% of rice harvest was produced by China and India, and also in Asia. West Africa, Caribbean, and Asian nations. There were about 140,000 varieties of rice before the GMO revolution came in. And these rice were drought resistant, pest resistant, and they grow in varieties of climates. But with the introduction of this international program on rice biology with the Rockefeller Foundation pushing for the GMO rice development, then all these varieties, most of these varieties have disappeared. But the Rockefeller Foundation have gotten the seeds. They have a seed vault in the Antarctica, which collects all the seeds from all over the world so they can patent them as their own. Along with that, so once the Monsanto or Syngenta laboratories and other biotech giants GMO the rice varieties, they patent them exclusively as their property. The farmers have to buy from them. They can't produce their own because some of these are not able to produce or reproduce in their farms. There's also the marketing of the golden rice where they put some beta-carotene. But not only beta-carotene, they have used daffodils. And genes of daffodils mixed with the gene rice. And daffodil is one of the most toxic flowering plant there is that could be. And with the problem with the beta-carotene is pretty good as a source of vitamin A. But what happens is with people who constantly eat staple foods and with increased vitamin A content, they could have hypervitaminosis or vitamin A toxicity. And for infants, this could cause permanent brain damage. AstraZeneca in May 2000 and the latter part of the Swiss Syngenta company announced that they have exclusive rights to commercialize the golden rice. Monsanto also have patented the golden rice. The Rockefeller Foundation and the Rockefeller Brothers have also created the International Service for Acquisition of Agri-Biotech Applications and the Center of Wheat for wheat and maize improvement, which means they have already GMO'd wheat, they have also GMO'd corn. Bacteria in GMO soybeans, the Roundup Ready soybean was introduced by Monsanto in 1995. The soybeans have a copy of Agrobacterium species strain CP4. A gene gun was used to insert the bacterium into this soybean genome. The non-genome soybean plants are contaminated by wind-borne contaminants. GMO plants survive with spraying of Roundup, a Monsanto herbicide. And Roundup will kill weeds, but not the GMO soybeans. GMO soybeans require more herbicide to control the weeds, and spraying of herbicide causes the following: destruction of smaller farmers' crops, death of chicken and other farm animals and horses. There were reports of organ deformities of animals born near GMO fields. For humans, there were reports that children have developed skin lesion in their bodies after the spraying of nearby soybean fields. Reports of severe nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, skin lesions from herbicides for plants, deformed bananas, deformed sweet potatoes, lakes surrounding around the area were filled with dead fish. In 2004, GMO soybeans spread all over the country, especially in Argentina. We also have it in the United States. And another thing, one of the latest on the Roundup, because of the pesticides, the glyphosate herbicide, which is a killer of superweeds, also can cause damage in the unborn, genetic damage in the unborn. That's one of the latest. And viruses in potatoes. The Kenya Agriculture Research Institute in America received from Monsanto a virus-resistant potato. The potato were more susceptible to viral infection, gave less yields compared to the natural potatoes. Now they're working in Africa to GMO the rice very much. The Rockefeller Foundation have funded several scientists and opened up areas where they brainwash the people to use GMO or GMO the rice, which will really be devastating because in the Philippines I've seen this. We are a rice producing country in Asia. We have the Ifugao Mounds terraces, which is about, if you put them all together, it's a mountain of rice cultivated by hand by the Aborigines in there, the natives, and they have already tampered with that, and it's not as beautiful as it used to be because they're missing some portions of rice in certain areas.